Family, it's your favorite queer radio personality, Anna Deshawn, with our queer news for today. Now, I want to make you a promise. We will continue to bring you the latest in queer news, culture, and politics. So if you're digging our intersectional take on the weekly, consider joining the Q Crew. The Q Crew is our monthly membership program we started to help grow this podcast. You get weekly emails from me and exclusive interviews with LGBTQ influencers from across the country. With your support, we can bring you more stories celebrating our lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, and comrade communities. This month, our exclusive interview for the Q Crew is with Angie Harvey. Angie is a dear friend of mine and a woman on a mission to help tell our stories. Her documentary, Black Rainbow Love, was her introduction to film, and it's already won 13 awards and is making its international debut. If you want to watch this said exclusive interview, you have to join the Q Crew. As always, the link is in the show notes. Family, Queer News is now a weekly podcast. My goal is to build the team up so we can properly execute a daily pod. But until then, a new episode will drop every Monday at 7 a.m. Chicago time. So if you enjoy what you hear, please leave us a review. It would be the best holiday gift. And thank you for being on the Queer News journey with us. Now for the news. Brittney Griner has been wrongfully detained for 293 days. We know more about her penal colony conditions as well, so we'll get into that today. The Respect for Marriage Act passed the Senate. Now what? Drag entertainers don't feel safe, so they are hiring armed guards to travel with them. Cookie Tookie passes away. And we celebrate Billy Porter receiving his star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Let's go, family.
You are now tuned in to higher frequencies. We do this frequently. Turn your radio station to E3 for that decency. Listen to great music and the latest movement. Safe listening for anyone that's tuned in. Who you waking up to? Anna Deshawn, Q Crew and friends. It's that real talk. Online radio with the spins. You caught up in traffic, frustrated. Just check in with E3 to shift your vibrations and get elevated. That's queer radio done right. Choose to be yourself. That's the only way to live life, and that's how it's done here. Just know y'all tuned in to the greatest. Ain't no competition. We ain't worried about the other stations. Check.
Our first story for today is an update on Brittney Griner. Here's what we know. It took 2 weeks for the U.S. Embassy to be notified of BG's move. Her penal colony is known as IK2. It is a female penal colony located 300 miles southeast of Moscow in the isolated Republic of Mordovia. We also know her legal team has been there to visit. A member of Brittney's legal team said this to Sports Illustrated. First, on behalf of Brittney, we would like to thank everyone who has expressed care for her. During the last few days, we've received numerous messages of support. We can confirm that Brittney began serving her sentence at IK2 in Mordovia. We visited her early this week. Brittney is doing as well as could be expected and trying to stay strong as she adapts to a new environment. Considering that this is a very challenging period for her, there will be no further comment from us, end quote. In this penal colony, it's said that her day will start at 6 a.m. with porridge, bread, and tea, y'all. From there, she will work at least a 12-hour day sewing clothes, mostly uniforms, for the prison service and for the Russian army fighting in Ukraine. There was a case filed against this facility for these labor conditions, as it reported during those 12 and sometimes 16-hour days, the women weren't even allowed to use the restroom. People have served time in this facility have said they went months with no days off. Marina Alexstrova, an associate professor at the University of Texas who lectures on the history of Russian prisons, said, "Her life will be very difficult. It will be terrible." Russia Behind Bars, a humanitarian group based in Moscow, asserts that IK2 violates national law with these conditions because medical care is limited and that porridge, bread, and tea for meals is substandard and provides little sustenance, especially during long, cold winters. I mean, you think? Y'all, that's it. She'll also get a light meal for lunch and then dinner, each meal looking seemingly the same, they say. The prisons in Mordovia are known for being just awful with their harsh regimens and human rights violations. Now, she is required to wear a uniform, and it must be perfect or she could be punished if it's not buttoned down correctly. Y'all. We are talking about an Olympic athlete. We are talking about Brittney Griner, y'all. This place just sounds awful. The Warsaw Report stated, quote, "In most prisons, the state of repair and the overcrowding make it difficult to maintain basic hygiene. This leads to regular outbreaks of epidemics." What? Epidemics, y'all. Epidemics. They say she will share a barrack with 100 other women at a time. They aren't allowed to have pictures of family or anything like that. It's a sterile place which looks and feels like you're stuck in the 1930s when it was built. And so let me just remind all of us that she is sentenced to 9 years in this place. If the US and Russian governments cannot come to a consensus on a prisoner swap, she will be there for 9 years. I also just want to note that right now, no one knows where Paul Whelan is. Y'all remember Paul, right? He is the Russian prisoner who's a former US Marine and also wrongfully detained in Russia. They are looking to bring both of them home at the same time. Now, Paul doesn't get as much press, and goodness knows Brittney don't get enough. But y'all, his family has not heard from him in weeks. They are literally living in fear at this moment, and the government has been pressing the Russian government for answers. This is just insanity, okay? I do want to share a way that you can put your frustration into action. Brittney's wife, Cherelle Griner, put out a call to action about a month ago on The View and asked us to write letters to uplift her spirits. I posted a video on social. I think I'm going to repost it again because I think it's just so incredibly important for us to be able to channel our frustration and anger somewhere positive that can make an impact, right? Hear what Cherelle had to say.
What can people do? You mentioned letters, and what can people do?
So right now, because getting her truly home is in the hands of a negotiation, you heard her mentor was not there. And so for me, I just believe words make a big difference. So, if you go to wearebg.org, we've set up, a letter writing campaign just to remind her that, she is freaking important, and impossible to forget, and just kind of, be her strength for her right now because she doesn't have it.
I've included the details in the show notes, so definitely check those out. And it'll only take you 10 minutes to do something really good that will go a long way. Visit wearebg.org for more details. All right, now for our next story about the Respect for Marriage Act that passed the Senate, which is a big deal. This was a bipartisan vote where 12 Republicans and 2 independents voted in favor to protect LGBTQ+ families as well as interracial couples. Now it's off to the House for a vote, then back to the Senate, and then to the president's desk for signature. Oh, how we love government process. So what does all this really mean and how does it affect you? I think that's always the part that we miss in the story when it comes to politics. People care about what it means for them. So let's dig into that. I want to give a big thanks to Equality Illinois for providing such a great breakdown. So number 1, it repeals the archaic federal statute definition of marriage as only between a man and a woman. That's a big deal, right? Number 2, it ensures that the federal government will provide equal benefits to all married persons, so long as the marriage was valid at the time and in the place where it was officiated. Also, really important, okay? And number 3, it requires all states, all 50 states, to recognize valid marriages from other states, regardless of the couple's sex, race, ethnicity, or national origin, okay? Those 3 are really, really major points. And while the Respect for Marriage Act provides these protections against a decision by the U.S. Supreme Court that erodes marriage equality across the country, this legislation would not stop a state from denying same-sex couples the freedom to marry, which basically means a state could ban it. But if you get married somewhere else and then come back to your state, they would have to recognize it and honor it, right? So this is really important. because we know what's been happening with right-wing politics in this country right now. It's extremely homophobic. It's extremely transphobic. They are evoking, the freedom of religion as a way to discriminate. And as someone who lives at all the intersections, we know that was the same method they'd used to not give Black folks their rights. They tried to say it was all about their Christianity. Okay, this is what God told them that they do. God told them that we were 3/5 of a person. Okay, so we see this being evoked here against LGBTQ folks and interracial couples. So the fact that this passed in a bipartisan way is a really big deal. I want to give a whole lot of credit to the Democrats on this one. Working to get this done before the holiday break, we hold them accountable for a whole lot, and we should also pat them on the back when things go well, too. So well done, Democrats. Of course, we will continue to follow this story as things continue to unfold. The House is set to vote this week. Hopefully you can get into the Senate this week and off to the president's desk. We'll be doing a big celebration when President Biden puts his signature on the bottom line.
Are you lost in your podcast journey? If so, you found the right podcast. My name is DJ Tracy Treese, and I'm a podcast producer. In partnership with theCUBE, I'm bringing you the Lost and Found for podcasters. I've worked behind the scenes on some of your favorite podcasts, and I'll be bringing you some great conversations with podcast industry experts to help you find your way through your podcast journey. There's so much information out there, and the industry is rapidly changing. No need to feel lost. You found the right podcast. Subscribe to the Lost and Found for podcasters now. Everywhere that you listen to podcasts, if you prefer your podcast in video, click the link in the description to subscribe to this podcast on YouTube.
Our next story for today is about our drag entertainers. I decided to share this story because we often take them for granted. We assume they will show up. We assume they will be fabulous. We assume they will make us laugh. But we have to stop taking our entertainers for granted. In a recent article published by NBC Out, some of the top drag entertainers across the country who travel from state to state have invested in additional security following the shooting at Club Q. They are living in increasing fear that they will be shot or harmed. Jinx Monsoon, winner of RuPaul's Drag Race Season 5 and RuPaul's Drag Race All-Star Season 7, said, quote, "We're trying to smile and make people happy for the holidays, and in the back of our heads, we're thinking, I hope I don't get shot." End quote. Family, that is a lot, okay? So the next time you're out and enjoying drag entertainment, take out the big bills, okay? Not just the dollars. Drop them 5s, them 10s, them 20s. Give them their flowers, because the fear of being who they authentically are in the world is real right now. With that, I want to acknowledge the passing of Samantha Cookie Tookie James. She was a whole mood on the internet, okay? She came to fame with her appearance on Jerry Springer back in 1998. It was one of those, I need to tell you something, I'm a man shows. Y'all remember them shows. If you look it up, they were still using the word transsexual back then, okay? She was one of the very first to live her trans life out in the media. Her candid Instagram lives could take you anywhere from fun to laughter to sex work to drugs to whatever she was getting into that day, child. You just did not know. She did it all unapologetically, and the people will definitely miss her. Rest well, Cookie. Rest well. Now, you all know we always end with the word. Today, the word is going to come from Billy Porter. You know, I reported last week that Billy was going to get his star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame on December 1st, World AIDS Day. I wanted to know what he was going to wear, and honey, he did not disappoint, okay? Gay Magazine posted clips from his speech, and it was so good that I wanted to share it with you. In his speech, he reminded all of us not to dim our light and to be just who God created us to be. Thank you, Billy, and congratulations again. Till next week, family. Peace.
And in honor of this World AIDS Day, I'm grateful to stand in front of the world as an out, loud, and proud representation of what being Black, queer, and HIV positive looks like in 2022. James Baldwin said, "It's an artist's job to disturb the peace. And as y'all know, I take my job very seriously. You know, I heard a lot of things in my life. You're too black. You're too gay, too loud, too extra, too flamboyant. Homosexuality is an abomination. You are an abomination. You will never be blessed. Well, we know that's a lie. That theory no longer has any credibility, bitches. Try to be quieter. Try fitting in. Butch it up. Dim your light. Stop making everybody feel so uncomfortable around you. I tried to do all of those things. I really tried hard, but thank God I couldn't. I'm grateful to have lived long enough to see the day where my queerness is no longer my liability, but now is my greatest superpower.
If you enjoyed what you hear, rate and review us inside your favorite podcasting app. This podcast is a production of E3 Radio, your #1 queer radio station playing queer music and reporting on queer news in high rotation.